Tony, thanks for taking the time to speak to DUTV. Section of the Sports were very disappointed with our movements in the January transfer window. Can you outline that period from your own perspective?
Yeah, and again, I understand that, and you know, nobody's more unhappy at how we ended up coming out the window than myself. But you know, a transfer window doesn't just act on the last day of the window. You know, we're at a recruitment strategy looking even for next summer, and in this window we were hoping to try and recruit. We looked at a number of possibilities. We're at a different level of club now. We're trying to sign targets who firstly are on a potential financial scale that we can't reach because of the quality we're trying to bring in. There's other clubs that are in competitive measures with us for these players. So the players that we used to pick up in the January windows, which are free agents, people that traditionally nobody really wants, then we're trying to go against players that other teams want, and therefore things change during it. I think one of the big things was that why did we let a striker go out on loan when we didn't replace him? And again, I can sit here and say that was I've heard people say it was a gamble. The reality is, if a player's here and he's not wanting to have game time, or he's not getting game time, then we have to make a conscious decision for the good of the group. Tony wanted to go and play football. He wasn't getting that here, and then we had to make a decision near the end of the last day of the window to attain that. Now, at the same time, we were still looking to try and bring players in. Unfortunately, we hit the bar with a few, and that's the way it goes. But I think if you look around at any club in Scotland, and in fact the UK, trying to get a striker all during the window was very difficult. So for me, it's very disappointing. We never stop though. We consistently are looking to see who we can bring in. We know our squad is we feel it's strong. That's myself, the head coach, the owner, the board. We think we've got a strong squad. Are we going to get light in certain areas? Potentially, if injuries go. But that's why we have the structure of this football club. We want young players to be playing. We want to throw them in. And fans don't like to hear that when we're bottom of the league. But we saw just on the game on Saturday against Hearts that we brought back guys like Ilmari Niskanen, Peter Pollitt into the group, and they made big impacts. And we have young players on the bench now that we also want to make impact. So we've got to look long term. Short term though, we need to get off the bottom of the league. That's imperative. And as I say, January window was disappointing for us all, not just the fans.
Yeah, you mentioned Liam Fox there. I mean, obviously at the early part of the season we changed from Jack Ross to Liam Fox. Do you think there's maybe a perception out there that could be perceived as an easy option going with Liam Fox?
Yeah, and I think it's a cheap thing to say that, you know. I think the same thing was said when Tam Courts became the manager, that people thought it was an easy option. These things are obviously Liam wasn't expected to get the job because of the change in manager, but I think just what I've said earlier, when we built a squad of players in the eyes of the manager that bought them, and we're one of the coaching staff who understands who they are and doesn't need radical change, then I think that's more a smarter move than having a new manager coming in and saying in January we need to empty out 10 players to get another 10 players of his eyes in. That's not workable. One of the big things we have here is succession planning. And Foxy and bringing in Stevie Crawford, Dave Bowman and now Charlie Mulgrew, we're trying to have a more sustainable viewpoint of it. And also when you look at Fox's CV, he hasn't managed before, but he's been in the coaching staff for 2 top 6 finishes in the last 2 clubs he's been at, Livingston and Dundee United. So for me, if you want somebody with experience or knowing where we're going to, then that's Foxy. And I think I'll say at that time, you know, and again, supporters can vent at me and whatever. There's a big club here. There's a lot of people want the same thing. And we need to stick to the processes. There's got to be a belief. There's got to be a belief that we can get out of this position we're in, and we can build, because we have some very, very good players here, and we have some very, very good people. And I would say to the supporters again, look, vent all they want to me all day long. There's no problem with that. I'm a big boy, but I want the best for the club. I hurt just as much as they do. So give their support, especially coming against Kilmarnock at this Saturday in the Scottish Cup.
There's been some very public protests about your role at the club. Can you talk us through your views on that?
Yeah, look, I think firstly, the team's bottom of the league, so I can understand the fans' frustrations. I think any team that's not performing week in, week out, especially at a club of this size, is going to be venting, especially at games. I do think sometimes, though, that we have to understand where we are as a team and what we're trying to achieve. We've had some very good performances after the World Cup. I think we've seen that the team here that we have is strong. We've got a load of very good players, but I do understand that they're venting. I think sometimes with fans, especially at this club, they do have an opportunity to speak up. You know, we've got the DUSG meeting coming up later on this month. We have the AGM coming this month. The owner's going to be over, so there'll be plenty of time to discuss what their issues are. I think the personal thing to me, look, it's always disappointing somebody's putting your name out on a banner, but I do look at it and say, well, look, if I'm the problem, then they're keeping it away from anyone else at the club. So I take that on board, I take it on the chin, and what does give me a challenge to try and get things right and get the ship steering again, because we're all after the same thing here. We all want success for Dundee United. I hurt just as much as everybody else. You know, I've got to go home on a Saturday night when we've lost games. So, look, I get it. I will say that there's been a number of fans contacting me to say, give me support personally and for the club. But as I say, I can't disagree or say there shouldn't be any form of venting. I would say though that sometimes it doesn't help the players, it doesn't help it gives the opposition an advantage. So I'm happy, my door's always open for anyone that wants to come in, ask what we're doing, how we're doing, and this, hopefully with this, I'm giving some sort of platform to let people know what we're trying to do to get out it.
Yeah, obviously the position that we find ourselves in at the bottom of the league, as you've already mentioned there, Tony. I mean, how do we get ourselves out of this situation we're in at the moment?
I think it's belief. I think we've all got to stick together. I think we've got to, you know, since we've come into the club 4 years ago, we've had disappointments, but we've had successes. We know we got out of the Championship, we got to Europe. Every time there's a bit of a road bump, I understand the fans that are saying, look, this is not going to work. They're, you know, but we're not at the end of the season yet. I think there's still another 9 league games to go. I think we can certainly add to our points total. There's a few things that we can throw blame. We can blame VAR, we can blame decisions, we can blame various goals. But look, we know where we are. The players every day are working hard. Foxy has said that, and I believe that if we all stick together, we can get to where we are. You know, I understand the panic. I understand where people have been in this position before. But you know, the owner's put a lot of money into this club, and you know, he's not thrown into a business practice here that he thinks is going to be unsuccessful. So we monitor everything, we review everything every day, every week. We look at how we're going to make ourselves better, and actually it heightens now. So the distraction of banners and all these things, as I say, the fans have got every right to protest. They can come and speak at the DUSG meetings, they can come at the AGM or any other time.
Is there anything else you would like to say to finish up?
No, just thanks. And again, I think you know, people have again, they're saying why people not came out and spoken. You know, the end of the window was Tuesday night. We had a game Wednesday, we had a game Saturday. So this is the first opportunity I've had. But again, look, we all want the same thing. So let's just take a deep breath. Let's try and let the players go and do what they're paid to do. Go and get points, and let's build on getting ourselves up the table.
Tony, thanks for taking the time to speak
Thanks,
to
Mark.
DTV. Thank you.
Cheers.